question is, how do we know they're Hebrew slaves? Were the Israelites ever there? Because no one would deny, okay, Egyptians had slaves and they built store cities. Great. But what makes this the Hebrews? Well, there's some evidence to that. Like in the Brooklyn Museum, there's an ancient papyrus that came from Egypt, and it's actually a slave registry where an owner who had bought and owned slaves is recording the names of his slaves. And when you go through this list, there's 77 names listed that he owned. 48 of them are Semitic, meaning they came from that region of Canaan or Israel, and their names are Semitic, which suggests, okay, the slaves are not African in origin. They're coming from Syro-Palestine, which fits the Bible. It's Semitic.
Let me break it down one more again. This is not proof of your Exodus story or of your Bible. Now, what the gentleman is talking about that he's trying to use as proof is called the Brooklyn Papyrus, or some call it the Brooklyn Papyri. Now, the Brooklyn Papyrus is a listing. It's actually multiple things. It's also a listing of a bunch of snakes and how to and the cures for these snakes. But the Brooklyn Papyri does have a listing of slaves who were runaways that were then captured. But this is not proof of the Bible, because there are a certain number of names. I believe it's like 33 or 30 something names that are Semitic names. Now, the Brooklyn Papyri dates back until the 13th dynasty, which is around the 1200 BCE time frame. So, understand that Egypt controlled the Levant during the 1200s BCE, but they controlled it from 3000 all the way down to 1192 BCE. This list of slaves, which is owned by a woman who they also think her husband who had died, they own these slaves. And as I said, about 30 names are Semitic. Who were Semitic people during that time frame? The Hittites were Semitic. The Canaanites were Semitic. The Ammonites were Semitic. The Moabites were Semitic. The Egyptians are Semitic. The Ammonites were Semitic. And these are just some of the people groups, the Phoenicians, Semitic, of the people groups that existed during that time frame. So it doesn't necessarily mean that these people were Israelites. These people could have been from any of those different groups that are Semitic, because Semitic is just that they had a common language. That's what Semitic means. That was the Semitic mean, a common language. Doesn't make them Israelites at all. We know that the first mentioning of Israelites comes from the Meneptah Stele, which is in the latter part of the 1200 BCE. We know that the Bronze Age collapse happened in around 1192, where after the Phoenicians defeated the Egyptians and they lost control of the Levant. So therefore, those slaves who were listed on those names could have migrated back to any of those societies, because there is no clear definition as to where those people came from. Sure, they could have come from that region, but that doesn't make them Israelites. So this, again, is this gentleman trying to force the biblical narrative to be the history to which we know, and trying to say that this is all circumstantial evidence of the Bible. No, this is circumstantial evidence of the writings of the Assyrians. This is circumstantial evidence of the writings of the Canaanites. This is circumstantial evidence of the writings of the Moabites, of the Ammonites, or any other ites. So this is his bullshit of being a lying-ass liar. So y'all have a great day. And remember always, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.